Eating my way through Penang's ghost kitchens. What if I told you that the Penang food you've been ordering online, the char kway teow, the laksa, the nasi kandar, might have never been touched by anyone who actually grew up eating it? What if the heritage recipe printed on the packaging was invented in a boardroom, not a grandmother's kitchen? And what if the real danger isn't the food itself, but the fact that we're slowly letting an algorithm decide what Penang food even is anymore? Stay with me, because what I found when I went looking for Penang's ghost kitchens changed the way I think about food, culture, and the city I thought I knew. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe so you never miss out on any of my essential content. Comment "I subscribe" below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. Alright, with that said, let's get into it. Let's start with a number that stopped me cold. Between 2020 and 2024, ghost kitchens in Malaysia grew by over 300%. 300 in 4 years. And Penang, this island famous for having some of the most protected, most celebrated street food in all of Asia, Penang became one of the fastest growing ghost kitchen hubs in the entire region. And most people eating from these kitchens have absolutely no idea. Now before we go any further, let me be clear about what a ghost kitchen actually is. It's a commercial cooking facility with no dining room, no storefront, sometimes no signage at all. It exists purely to fulfill delivery orders. You'll never walk past it. You'll never smell it from the street. You order the food on an app, a driver picks it up from what might look like a parking lot or an industrial unit, and it arrives at your door in a branded box that says something warm and nostalgic like Mac's Kitchen or Old Town Flavors. Sounds harmless enough, right? That's what I thought too. Until I started digging. I want you to meet someone. Her name is Auntie Rohani, and she's been selling Penang laksa from the same spot on Gurney Drive for 22 years. 22 years of waking up before sunrise to make her Assam fish broth from scratch. 22 years of the same loyal customers who'd queue for 30 minutes just for her bowl. And then, almost overnight, she started losing them. Not because her food got worse. Not because she raised her prices, but because a ghost kitchen version of Penang laksa appeared on GrabFood for 3 ringgit cheaper than what she was charging. I don't understand, she told me, wringing her hands. My fish, my Assam, my Sinkaluk, all fresh. How can they sell cheaper? What are they using? She lost 70% of her regular delivery customers within 18 months. 70%. And she's not alone. This is happening up and down the island. That's when things got darker for me, because I realized this wasn't just a story about food. It was a story about who gets to survive. So I decided to do what any slightly obsessive food person would do. I ordered 5 Penang dishes from 5 different ghost kitchen brands in a single sitting. One afternoon, my table looked like a delivery driver's worst nightmare. 5 plastic bags, 10 containers, way too many plastic utensils I didn't ask for. And I started eating. The char kway teow came first. It looked fine from a distance. Dark, glossy, the right color. But the moment I opened the container, something was missing. That smell, you know the one. That wok, that slightly smoky, slightly charred perfume that clings to good char kway teow like a memory. It wasn't there. The flavor was decent. It tasted like char kway teow. But it tasted like the idea of char kway teow, not the real thing. The nasi kandar came next. Plastic container, no trace of banana leaf, and the curry gravy, every single one of the 5 gravies I ordered, was the exact same shade of reddish brown. Identical. Like they'd come from the same vat. Which, as I later found out, in some cases, they actually had. Here's the fact that blew my mind. A 2023 report by Momentum Works, one of the leading tech research firms in Southeast Asia, found that over 40% of cloud kitchen brands operating in the region share the same central kitchen facility. The same kitchen. Different logos, different names, different emotional backstories on their menu pages, but the same kitchen, the same cooks, and very likely the same base sauces. Knowing it from a report is one thing. I wanted to see it for myself. Finding these kitchens is not as straightforward as you'd think. Ghost kitchen addresses on delivery apps are often listed as nondescript shophouses, loading bays, shared industrial units. The whole point is that you're not supposed to find them. But after a bit of persistence, and honestly, a lot of driving around industrial areas in Butterworth, I found one. And that's where I met Farid. Farid is 34 years old. Former line chef at a mid-range hotel in Georgetown. Smart, fast, and genuinely talented in the kitchen. He left the hotel during the pandemic because, as he put it, the pay was terrible and the hours were killing me. So he rented a kitchen space, about the size of a large studio apartment, and launched a ghost kitchen. Then another one. Then another. 3 different brands. 3 different logos. 3 completely different emotional pitches on their menu pages. Uncle Razak's Nasi Lemak, traditional kampung feel. Spice Route Kitchen, fusion modern young. Raza Warizan, heritage, grandmother's recipe, trust and nostalgia. Same kitchen. Same Farid. Same Tuesday afternoon. I'm not telling you this to shame Farid. Honestly, I understand exactly why he did it. The platform algorithms reward brand diversity and multiple listings. You get more visibility if you appear to be 3 restaurants instead of 1. It's a game, and Farid figured out the rules. But here's the thing, and this is where a 2022 study published in the International Journal of Hospitality Management becomes really important. Consumer trust drops by 38% when food origin transparency is withheld. 38%. And yet delivery platforms currently have no requirement to disclose which brands share facilities, which brands share menus, or even which city your food is actually being cooked in. And I said, which city, very deliberately. Because some of the ghost kitchens listed as Penang food aren't even in Penang. And yet, you'd never know. Now here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. Because I need to talk about something that goes beyond taste. I sat down with Uncle Chong, 58 years old, retired food safety inspector, spent over 2 decades in the field across Penang and Kedah. He's the kind of man who chooses his words very carefully, who doesn't say anything unless he's absolutely sure of it. And what he told me quietly, over coffee, was this. In his final years of active inspection, complaints about delivery food, stomach problems, inconsistent quality, foreign objects, spiked by 55%. 55%. But enforcement couldn't keep pace, because the entire inspection framework was built around physical premises. A restaurant has a door. You can walk through it, check the kitchen, check the storage, check the hygiene certifications. A ghost kitchen that registers as a food preparation service, rather than a restaurant? That falls into a legal gray zone that many local councils are still trying to figure out. Now, to be fair, and I want to be fair, Malaysia's Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living launched a ghost kitchen audit framework in late 2023. There is movement on this. There are people working on closing these gaps. But Uncle Chong shook his head slowly when I mentioned it and said, the framework is there. The enforcers are not enough. So the system is catching up. Slowly. But here's the thing that no regulation will ever be able to fix, the taste. And more than the taste, the loss of something that can't be written into any compliance document. I need to tell you about Penang's hawker culture for a second, because I think a lot of people don't fully understand what's actually at stake here. Penang's hawker food has been recognized globally. It's been featured in UNESCO discussions about intangible cultural heritage. Anthony Bourdain called Georgetown one of the greatest food cities on the planet. Michelin inspectors have sat at plastic stools eating from roadside stalls. This food culture took generations to build, recipes passed hand to hand, technique learned through repetition, flavor calibrated not by a recipe card but by memory and love and the particular humid heat of a Penang morning. And now it's being algorithmically cloned and undercut. I sat with Madam Lim Bee Chu, 67 years old, Penang-born and raised, making Hokkien mee from her mother's recipe for 40 years. She showed me her hands when she talked, broad, strong hands, permanently stained from years of prawn shells and dark soy. A ghost kitchen aggregator approached her 2 years ago. They wanted to license her recipe. They offered her 800 ringgit a month to hand over the formula, the ratios, the technique, the stock method, so they could scale it across their central kitchen network. She said no. My mother's hands are in this bowl, she said to me, completely matter-of-factly, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You cannot put a price on that. I had to stop writing in my notebook for a moment after she said that. But I told you from the beginning that this story isn't black and white. And it isn't. Because ghost kitchens have also done something genuinely remarkable for a group of people who had almost no access to the food economy before. A 2022 World Bank report on informal economies in Southeast Asia found that ghost kitchens gave over 2 million home cooks, predominantly women, their first entry point into formal food entrepreneurship. 2 million people. Women who had decades of cooking skill but no capital for a shophouse, no connections to get a street hawker license, no way to compete in the traditional system. Meet Siti Norzahra. She's 29. Single mother. She lives in Seberang Perai, the mainland side of Penang, in a 2-room apartment with her daughter. She grew up watching her grandmother make nasi dagang the Kelantanese way, with particular rice, a specific coconut milk ratio, fresh tuna fish curry that takes hours. It's not the kind of food you find easily in Penang. It's home food. It's food of a specific place and a specific family. 2 years ago, Siti launched a ghost kitchen from her apartment kitchen. She was doing 5 to 8 orders a day at first. Then people started talking. Then a few food bloggers tried it. Then the orders started stacking. Today, she runs a proper rented kitchen space with 1 part-time assistant. She earns 4,500 ringgit a month, more than she ever made in an office job, doing work she genuinely loves, keeping her grandmother's food alive in a city that would otherwise never have tasted it. Tell me that's not beautiful. Tell me that's not exactly what food is supposed to do. So this isn't a story about ghost kitchens being good or bad. It's more complicated and more human than that. The real question, the one nobody's asking loudly enough yet, is, who controls the algorithm that decides which food you even see in the first place? Let me give you a moment to sit with that question, because this next part genuinely unsettled me. GrabFood and Foodpanda, the 2 dominant delivery platforms in Malaysia, use ranking algorithms to determine which restaurants appear at the top of your search results. And here's what those algorithms prioritize: paid placement, premium listing fees, advertising spend. A ghost kitchen with a 5,000 ringgit monthly advertising budget will almost always appear above a 40-year hawker stall that just got their first smartphone last year. It's not about quality. It's not about heritage. It's not about how good the food is. It's about who spent the most money that week. A 2023 investigative piece published by The Edge Malaysia found that the top-ranked, local food brands across major delivery platforms were predominantly corporate ghost kitchen operations, not independent hawkers. The stalls that built Penang's food reputation are being buried in search results, not because they failed, but because they can't afford to compete in a pay-to-play algorithm. Your food choices are being curated. Not by culture. Not by tradition. Not by your grandmother's recommendation or a trusted food critic's review. By whoever had the biggest marketing budget this week. And most of us, tapping through the app on our couch at 8 p.m., have absolutely no idea. Now let me ask you something. If you care about Penang food, if you care about any local food culture, anywhere, there are actually real things you can do. Simple things. This isn't about guilt, it's about choice. Look for hawker stalls that have their own social media presence, even a basic one. Many of the older aunties and uncles now have children or grandchildren helping them manage an Instagram page or a Facebook group. Follow them. Order from them directly when you can. When you do use delivery apps, scroll past the paid placements and look at the listings further down. Check if there's a physical address that sounds like an actual neighborhood, not a logistics park. Leave reviews for the real hawker stalls. It sounds small. It's not small. The algorithm responds to engagement, and engagement is something every single one of us can give. And when you're in Penang, get off the main tourist drags. The best food this city has is not in a mall, and it is definitely not on a delivery app. It's in the places that are slightly hard to find, slightly hard to get to, slightly inconvenient. That inconvenience? That's the flavor. That's part of what you're tasting. And now, the moment of truth. The actual taste test verdict. Let me walk you through all 5 ghost kitchen dishes I ordered, honestly and without mercy. The char kway teow, passable. Technically correct. Emotionally absent. Like a cover version of a song where they got all the notes right but none of the feeling. The Penang laksa, this one actually hurt me a little. The fish broth base was clearly from a concentrate. The prawn paste was there but thin. The torch ginger flour was missing entirely. Laksa without its full aromatics is like Penang without its rain. Something essential is just gone. The nasi kandar, the most forgivable of the lot, honestly. The mix of gravies was decent, the chicken was properly cooked, and if I'd never had real Penang nasi kandar, I might have thought this was great. But I have. And it wasn't. The appam balik, actually not bad. Slightly too sweet, but the crisp edges were there, and whoever was running that kitchen clearly understood what texture is supposed to feel like. And the fifth dish, the one that surprised me most, was a bowl of Kelantanese nasi dagang. Fragrant, slightly sticky rice. A tuna curry so deep and aromatic it made the whole room smell different. The coconut milk was real. The spicing was layered and personal, not generic. I called the kitchen. It was Siti Norzahra. Of course it was. And so we come to the end of this strange, delicious, slightly troubling afternoon, and I'm sitting there with 10 empty containers and a notepad full of thoughts, and I'm thinking, what is Penang food actually? Is it a recipe? Is it a technique? Is it a place? Is it the person making it? Because I've watched a corporation clone a recipe and sell it cheaper, and it tasted hollow. And I've watched a 29-year-old woman cook her grandmother's recipe in a rented kitchen and deliver it to strangers who've never been to Kelantan, and it tasted like something real and true and alive. The best thing I ate in Penang all week wasn't from any app. It was from a 70-year-old man on a motorcycle with a portable stove, parked at the edge of a covered market just after sunrise, making chi chong fun the way he'd been making it for 50 years. He had no app listing. He had no social media. He had a small crowd of people who knew exactly where to find him every single morning, and they kept coming back because there is a kind of flavor, a depth and a specificity and a warmth that only comes from someone who has made the exact same thing, with the exact same love and the exact same hands, for half a century. No algorithm can replicate that. No ghost kitchen has ever made me feel that. At least not yet. But here's what I keep coming back to. Every time I open a food delivery app now, I notice something I didn't notice before. I notice that the top results aren't there because they're the best. I notice that the familiar-sounding names with the warm logos might be 3 different brands run by one person in an industrial kitchen somewhere I'll never see. I notice the hawker aunties buried 10 screens deep, with no photos and no reviews, still making the real thing every morning. And I have to ask myself, what am I actually choosing when I place an order? Am I choosing what I want? Or am I choosing what the algorithm decided I should want tonight? That's the question I'm leaving with you. And I genuinely, sincerely want to know what you think. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever ordered from a ghost kitchen and been genuinely surprised, good or bad? Would you keep ordering from them after watching this? Or does knowing what's behind the logo change something for you? And if this video made you think, even for a second, about where your food actually comes from, do me a favor and share it with someone who loves food. Not for the algorithm, for the conversation. Because Penang's food culture is worth talking about. And the people keeping it alive deserve to be found. I'll see you in the next one.